now take you to the broadcast of It's Time with Reverend Nathaniel W. Martin. Here is Reverend Martin.
All right, thank you, Dr. Blackwell. Let me say Hotep Habarigani to my Africana Studies contemporaries, colleagues, and seekers after the truth all. And let me hasten to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, but certainly never good night and never ever goodbye, because I've always found goodbyes traumatizing. Personal, I have always found goodbyes traumatizing. My name is the Reverend Nathaniel Wayne Martin. I'm the pastor of the New Life Institutional Baptist Church here in the city of Los Angeles, and we're located at 8916 South Main Street here in the city of Los Angeles, zip code 9003. And this offering that you are viewing is entitled It's Time, which is a social justice offering where we zero in rather on the environment and on the economics, the two E's. And we welcome you to another episode, all right? And pull up a chair, get your coffee and everything, or whatever you're drinking, and come on in with us. We're going to have an interesting 30 minutes. All right, and hats off to all of our viewers and listeners who, when they meet me in the street, in conversation, they tell us how they enjoy the program. And we hope that you will tell others and that they will become subscribers and hit the like button, and let's get this thing going. Speaking of going, Scripture says in Ephesians 6 chapter, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And those of you that have been looking at the way things are turning out, especially since last Saturday, and it's poetic justice, isn't it, that those that live by the sword sometimes have to ask the government to defend them. And I don't know, it's a tragedy that the people who were not involved in the rally, but were just Trump supporters. One man got killed. I think his funeral was today, Mr. Contemporary. And the other people who were wounded, I so far haven't gleaned their names, but they were innocent people. And whether you believe that this was an actual assassination attempt or whether this was a hoax, we will find out. Main thing, we will find out. And we just, our sympathies and our hearts go out to the people, innocent victims. And Mr. Trump started out right. He said he's going to speak about unity, but then, of course, you remember when he was president, he was speaking about unity, but it was division. And I don't see him changing because he's too old to change his stripes. Leopard can't change his stripes. And he's set in his ways. The way he is, or has been, is the way he's going to be. And you can say he's younger, but you can't prove it by him, and you sure can't prove it by me. All right, which brings me to my first item that I want to stress, is that the Democrats are fighting among each other. The Democratic Central Committee, Central Campaign Committee, the ones that tell us who we're going to vote for, they are fighting among themselves. And I listened to the YouTubers and the pundits and Mr. Roland Martin, no relation but same last name, who has a program called Roland Martin Unfiltered, is lamenting the fact that the Democrats, the governing power of the Democrats, don't want Kamala Harris. And that's why they're trying to get Biden to step down, because if they get him to step down, they automatically remove her from the equation. And some of them are fearful that if Biden gets a second term, that he will resign or turn it over to Kamala Harris, and she will be automatically the president, which would make good sense to me, that Biden would do that. He's done a lot of things for black women, and I trust he will be able to accomplish that feat, knowing the opposition. And but when you're not fighting the Republican, but you're fighting your own people, that really kind of puts some salt in your wound. And I think the Democratic Party should learn a lesson from the history of this country. You remember Abraham Lincoln was fighting a war, and he had an election during the war, and even he himself didn't think he was going to survive and make another, get another term. And he had his cabinet to put their name on the outside of a letter stating that it is apparent now for many months that I will not be re-elected. I'm putting my own words in there, paraphrasing, and that I would have to do everything that I can to help whoever is elected. At that time, they were thinking it would be between George McClellan, General George McClellan, whom Lincoln had fired, and J.C. Fremont, and it might have been one other person, but those are the three: Lincoln, Fremont, and McClellan. So Lincoln had said in this letter, which was never published, he kept it in his drawer because he actually won. He said, whoever becomes president, I will have to do everything in my power to help him between the election and his inaugural, because it would be impossible for him to save the nation afterward. And his people were just like these Democrats. They wanted to draft. They had already nominated Lincoln, but then they came back in August and they asked Lincoln to step aside, and they wanted to put somebody else, run somebody else on the ticket. And Lincoln, their platform, that theory was that Lincoln should revoke the Emancipation Proclamation. And Lincoln said he wasn't going to do that. So, let me read you something of this. It's not long. One of the commissioners that came to see Lincoln, his name was Raymond. Okay, Raymond believed that the hour had come to give up the emancipation as a precondition for dealing with the South, the Confederacy. Now we're talking about early 1964. But Lincoln wanted to be strong, but the question was asked, could he hold the line alone? His party was wavering, just like these Democrats. There was no cheering news from the battlefield. We don't hear no good news from Gaza. We don't hear no good news from Ukraine other than the propaganda. And now we know propaganda is nothing but a bunch of lies, just like all of that time that they were telling us in the Vietnam, oh, we winning. Well, we winning while we keep having all these body bags coming back here, and while we keep accelerating or escalating the war. But yet you tell us we're winning. I digress. Let me see. There was no good news from the battlefield. He needed black men in the fighting forces. He believed no man would fight without an incentive, and the incentive in this case was liberty. Remember, for the first 2 years of the Civil War, they wouldn't let Negroes join the fight because they said this is a white man's war. And Lincoln was cagey enough, a politician, and savvy enough to know that if he said this was a war for the end of slavery, that a lot of the white officers and white volunteers would go home because they wouldn't fight for the black man, for Negroes, as the first 2 years. Let me continue here with this. Lincoln had long ago made the moral decision rather, that slavery was wrong and could have no place in a nation truly devoted to the principles of the Declaration of Independence. The waning days of August of 1864 tested that commitment to the ideal of liberty for all. Lincoln would not back down. He had got the enslaved and free blacks to enlist in the military, and quite frankly, the Civil War could not have been won without the black man, especially after the first 2 years. It changed from being just a white man's war to being a war to save the Union, with white folks and black folks fighting on the sides of the Union. Remember, the theory of the South was that if a Negro could make a good soldier, then that whole theory of slavery was wrong. But I digress again. Let's see. Lincoln would not back down. To send word to Richmond that emancipation was negotiable, Lincoln told Raymond and the party elders, would be worse than losing the presidential contest. It would be ignominiously surrendering in advance. That Abraham Lincoln would not do. The president insisted on his prescribed policy toward slavery at immense peril, and unlike in the post-1860 election season, this time he took his stance when he himself was on the ballot. I put that up against what Lerone Bennett Jr. In his book Forced into Glory, where he criticized Lincoln, but of course politicians are open to criticism on both sides for doing something and then for doing nothing. Just like I criticized Biden for his approach to Israel, and how our bombs and our guns and our tanks and our airplanes and our bullets, are killing all of these Gazans. Those people that the Israelis are killing, they're killing them with our weapons that we sold to them. And it looks like Biden is feckless to tell Netanyahu to stop. But again, I digress. I'm going to have a point to make, so let me get to it. Let's see. Let's see. Let me pick it up right here. This time he took the stance when he himself was on the ballot to end slavery. Lincoln risked defeat and banishment in Springfield, Illinois, the highest price for a politician man to pay. But he was ready to pay it, talking about Abraham Lincoln. He would rise or fall on emancipation. He thought he was right. There would be no reversal, no concession. We may be defeated, we may fail, but we will go down with our principle. I like that. Man got to have some principle. That's what Omar said in The Wire. Lincoln remarked to a senator, I will not modify, I will not qualify, nor retract my proclamation, nor my letter. if he returned the black men who had fought at Port Hudson and elsewhere to slavery, the president said, I should be damned in time and in eternity for so doing. The world shall know that I will keep my faith to friends and foes, enemies, come what will. In early September, to a group of black supporters of the Union from Baltimore, Lincoln said, it has always been a sentiment with me that all mankind should be free. So far as I am able, within my sphere, I have always acted as I believed to be right and just, and I have done all I could for the good of mankind generally. I have done all I could. I claimed not to have controlled events, but confessed plainly that events have controlled me. He heeded his conscience, choppily, perhaps hesitantly, but always surely. And as a side note, the point I was making, after all that noise that the Republican Party at that time, not this Republican Party, but Lincoln's Republican Party was making, in the month of August, well, they said Lincoln cannot be re-elected. Lincoln himself had said he couldn't be re-elected. What a difference did they make? Come September 3rd, the next month, here comes a note from General Sherman saying Atlanta is ours and we are won, and fairly won. And all of a sudden, the whole countenance of the country shifted. The South began to weep, but the North began to shout glory. Because, you know, you don't know how things are going to go. And but I think it's a mistake for the Democrats to be arguing among themselves. They should be arguing with the GOP, with the Republicans, don't you think? Since that whom they are contending with. But yet it looks like they're going to do an internecine affair and shoot themselves in the foot and cut their own throats and stab each other in the back in order to try to keep Kamala Harris from having the potential to become president of the United States. You know, it's bad when you got to fight your enemy out the house and then fight your enemy in the house, you know. And that's horrendous. That's so dismaying. I'm sure that weighs heavily on Mr. Biden and upon Mr. Biden's family. And who would have thought Obama would be holding a knife to stab Mr. Biden in the back? And I hear that Chuck Schumer is trying to convince Biden to drop out. And I hope Biden does not drop out, because he could guarantee Kamala Harris would become the president of the United States, first black woman president of the United States. So I hope he can hang in there. And I'm encouraging everybody I know to vote Democrat. Give Joe Biden a chance to put some people on that Supreme Court. You can put 4 people on there. If we can take over the Congress, we already got the House of Representatives, but we just don't have enough. But if we can get another 10 or 12 seats in the House of Representatives and pick up a few seats in the Senate, then we will have an opportunity to put 4 people on the Supreme Court to counterbalance these fools that are up there making all these rash decisions and saying the president is above the law. And if I was Donald Trump, I would be on pins and needles that Biden wouldn't send somebody to assassinate him for real. Since he's above the law, he could say he was in his official duties. Lord help us. And go back to the old European free-for-all system where Caesar had men killed because he felt they were a threat to him. or like Herod the Great, how he killed so many people, even of his own family, leading one Roman to say it's better to be Herod's dog than to be Herod's friend. And you can see the way the Supreme Court is going. They're no longer following precedent. They're no longer following stare decisis. This ruling that they made, this last ruling that they made, Donald Trump versus the United States, where they granted him immunity, that's going to backfire on him. And it's going to have to be repealed, and we're going to have to get these fools off Supreme Court, especially Alito and Clarence Thomas. I'm just ashamed of Clarence Thomas because he was put in to replace Thurgood Marshall, who was a champion of civil rights, who was a champion of the law and of the Constitution. And as an aside, they talk about Harvard University. Howard University did more to protect the Constitution of these United States and to safeguard and make sure the government lived up to the standards of the Constitution of the United States than any Harvard or whatever kind of Ivy League college you want to name, including Princeton. So when you start talking about great colleges, don't ever underestimate the contribution that Howard University has made to this country. Yes, Harvard University, Lincoln University, those type of universities have been responsible for the standards of the adherence to the Constitution of the United States being honored and upheld. But then I digress again. All right, now I've done all of that. Again, I say what it is. The fear is that Biden may not last a second term, and they don't want a black woman to become president of the United States. But it looked like it's going to happen if we can get Biden back in there. So that's what I feel we need to be about our Father's business, and let the chips fall where they may as to whether this assassination attempt was a legitimate assassination attempt or was it a hoax gone wrong. And we shall see what we shall see. Because you remember when John Kennedy was assassinated, come to find out it was Lyndon Baines Johnson who said, make sure you say it's one man, it was only one man. And when everybody said they not only heard a shot from up there at that book bindery, but somebody also saw somebody out on a grassy knoll. And if an educated scientific person looked at the film, this is the Zapruder film, you come to a different theory from what they said about it was only one man. They never were able to show how he could reload in that split second, and they had the expert marksmen, sharpshooters from all over the world to try to duplicate that shot, and it ain't possible. They ain't done it yet. So it was somebody else other than Lee Harvey Oswald up there taking a shot at the president. And again, I'm digressing. But back to the subject of Trump's assassination attempt, as it were. It went horribly wrong, and now Mr. Contemporary's family, I believe, is burying him today. And I think the health status of the two wounded victims has been moved up from critical to guarded, I think it is. And so if Trump was behind this, And please don't put. He's not above it. He is not. Don't put nothing over. He won't. Don't put nothing past him. In other words, certainly he would do everything necessary to win, because this is fits right into his narrative. And I've never known him to be a Christian. But in his speech last night, he was thanking God. Well, he says, by the grace of God, you know what I mean? Makes you cringe. Makes you cringe to see the dissimulation that our leaders, all right, 5 minutes or less, that our leaders are demonstrating. Remember, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. We wrestle against powers that we can't embrace or see or put our finger on it. That's a power, excuse me, that is amorphous, and it takes many forms, it takes many features, characteristics. It's changeable, it's malleable, it's like a chameleon, and you and I have to remember that we are not fighting against flesh and blood, but against the things that are enumerated in that book of Ephesians, which is Paul's letter to the church at Ephesus, and yet we have to be prayed up, stay on our spiritual guard, pray for the spirit of discernment, most of all, so that we can keep up with all of these swift transitions and changes that we are seeing. And remember, it's not always what you see, and neither is it everything you hear, because everybody is lying. Hate to put it that way, but that's about the size of it. Donald Trump is a liar. The GOP has got his stamp on it, his imprimatur, if you will, and you know they're lying. And I don't know who we can trust. You better put your trust in the Lord, and don't try to follow these people, these politicians that are telling you that by the grace of God they're still alive, because you know they could be lying to you. And we are susceptible to lies, because we always want to believe a hero myth, and that that blood on Trump's ear, on his face, was heroic blood. And then we come to find out 2 or 3 years later it was all a hoax. So don't fall for the okie doke, as the people in Louisiana want to say. All right, spiritual wickedness in high places. That's what you're battling against, and you cannot always believe what you see, because lies are being told left and right, and there's a lot of suspicion being cast on the Secret Service. Because there's a report out now that this boy's daddy called the police the time that boy left the house. So where was the police at? And did they pass that word along to the Secret Service? And now you find out the Secret Service was looking at this boy on top of the roof 30 minutes before they shot him. So what's up with that? Anyway, spiritual wickedness in high places. So then get ready to go, my brothers and my sisters, as I always say. If you're working on a job and they don't want to pay you, don't waste your life. Don't get caught in that trap of living paycheck to paycheck. If they don't want to pay you what you work, don't work for them. Thank you, Doc. We're out of here.